Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. Stick around to hear my January TBR. Alright guys, so this is a very ambitious January TBR. I have 10 books on this list, and if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I did not do a great job with reading in December. I was in a little bit of a reading slump, and that is officially over. So most of these books are fantasy romance, YA fantasy, and then I think I have 2 taboo romance on this list. So I'm just so excited to check out these books. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also check out my Instagram. It is linked down in the description below. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about all the books I want to read in January. All right, so the first 3 books on this list are actually books from my December TBR, which I will leave linked in the cards and the description, that I didn't get around to reading, but I'm still really looking forward to and very excited to read. So the first one is King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett. This is the same author that did the Hades and Persephone retelling, A Touch of Darkness. I love her books, I love her writing. I just think they are so fast-paced and fun to read. I love the spice. And I know I'm gonna love this. A lot of you have already told me that you've read it and you think I'm gonna enjoy it, so I just can't wait to read it. It's about vampires, arranged marriage, and it has spice. It's gonna be a good time. So this is very high on my list of books I want to read in January. And the next book is from an older fantasy romance series, and that is Dark Fever, and this is by Carrie Marie Moning. So I was kind of worried that you guys wouldn't be interested in me reading this, but a lot of you have told me that you really love the series and you want to see what I think. So I'm so excited. And I just know this is about a girl that ends up traveling to Ireland, and she's able to go into the world of the Fae, I believe. And I didn't realize this had an Ireland setting. And funny story, my dad's Puerto Rican, and we thought my mom was German. Her maiden name is Augustine, and then we did a DNA test, and we found out that she is like 90% Irish. So I've been really into Ireland since then. My cousin actually just went to Ireland on her honeymoon, and I just think it's a really cool setting. So I'm very excited to read this, another one that is a high priority for January. And the last book from my December TBR that I did not get around to is the Zodiac Academy Cursed Fates. So I talked about in my December wrap-up that reading the 5th book put me in a little bit of a reading slump, not because I don't absolutely enjoy the series and I really enjoyed it the first time around. I just want to get to Heartless Sky. So I'm hopefully going to read this in January. I want to say that I'm going to read this and Heartless Sky in January. Realistically, I don't think that's going to happen, but I will definitely finish this one, and I'm definitely going to read this one physically because I realized that I'm not crazy about the Zodiac Academy narrator on Audible, but I am excited to go back into this world and jump back into this, and this will definitely be read at some point in January. And next up is actually a reread. So I'm going to be rereading Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. So the next book of House and Sky and Breath is coming out in February, which means I need to reread this before then because a lot happens in this book. I remember the basics. We are following Bryce Quinlan as she's trying to solve a tragedy takes place in the beginning of the book, and she finds out the wrong person was accused of doing it, and then she teams up with Hunt Akalar and they solve the crime. There's a lot of other stuff that happens, and it was really enjoyable. I've talked about this before. The beginning is a little info dumpy, but overall, the ending of this book is probably one of my favorite endings in a Sarah J. Maas book. It was just so much happens. There's so much revealed. I love this book so much. So I'm very happy. I don't think I've ever actually done a reread yet. So I'm super excited to reread this in preparation for House of Sky and Breath. And I will do a full recap video of this. So that way, if you don't want to go back and reread this, you can just check out that video and it'll highlight all the major points. And next up, we have Hooked. And this is by Emily Mcintre. I believe this is like a Peter Pan retelling, but with Hook as the main love interest. And I'm so pumped to read this. I have heard nothing but amazing things on Book Talk. Everyone seems to love this, and I'm just so looking forward to reading this. I believe the audio version does come out at the end of January, so I'm probably going to listen to it via audio, but it's going to be so good. And I think this is part of a duology, so there's Hooked, and then I think the second one, Scarred, is coming out at the end of January, and it's going to be such a good time. I'm so excited. I love Peter Pan. It's one of my favorite fairy stories, so just imagining Peter Pan, but spicy, it's going to be a good time. So I'm very excited to read this. And next up is a book I talked about in my Windsor book haul, and that is Year of the Reaper by Makiia Lucier. I know very little about this. Like I said, this is the Fairy Loot edition. I hadn't heard of it until I received it, and it just sounds like a really cool YA story. I know that this boy, I think I said he was the king in the winter book haul, and I think I'm mistaken, but I believe this boy is taken from his lands. He's held as a captor, stays in prison, and then his lands end up becoming completely plagued. And when he goes back or travels back, he finds out that someone has put an assassination attempt on the queen, and he teams up with a historian, and they have to look into the past and figure out who is trying to kill this woman. And it just sounds so good, and it's been compared to like an epic fantasy for the YA age, and I just think it'll be really fun, and it's really different than all the other books I have for this month on this TBR, so I'm excited. This will definitely probably be read in the middle of January, but it should be a really good time. And this next book I think I've honestly had on 3 separate TBRs, and I still haven't gotten around to it, and it is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. It is a Shakespeare retelling that is set in or Romeo and Juliet retelling that is set in Shanghai. Everyone seems to love it. The second book, These Violent Ends, just came out, and I actually got it for Christmas, so I really need to read this. Definitely high on my priority list. Let me know in the comments if you've read this, if you think I will like it. I don't know why, I just am struggling to pick it up, but it will hopefully be read in January. And next up was 100% an impulse buy, and that was Priest by Simone. So I 100% am reading this just because I keep seeing it on Book Talk, and I'm intrigued. And I'm curious. I know it's a standalone, I know there is a lot of spice, and it should be interesting. I'm really into taboo romances right now, if you can't tell, so I figured this would be an interesting time. So look forward to this in my January wrap-up. I haven't had a good run recently with spicy books, but maybe this will change that. And piggybacking off that is another kind of taboo type series, and that is the series that I will leave on the screen so I can still get monetized. And this was recommended by someone who I know reads very similar books to me, so I always trust her recommendations. And I've actually seen a few booktubers talk about this, and I believe it's about a woman who ends up being assaulted or hurt in the very beginning, and then it's a revenge novel, and I think she might become a serial killer, and there's spice, and it just sounds really cool, really fun, so I'm excited to read this. I figured I'll read this just when I feel kind of reading like slumpy. I know these books are pretty short, so they should be fast reads, and I'm excited to check them out. Alright guys, those are all the books I plan on reading in January. Please let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books, what you think about them. Also, feel free to give me recommendations. A lot of you guys have messaged me on Instagram, and I absolutely love it. I get so excited when I get recommendations. So I said this already, but I post videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I'll talk to you all next week. Bye.